Okay, okay. The regular board meeting of the governing board of trustees of Romoland School District is called to order at 5:30 PM. Roll call, Mr. Reller. Here. Ms. Moon. Here. Ms. Kleiss will be joining us shortly, or is she on now? Okay, after a closed session, okay. And myself, Mr. Sperry. And Mr. Aguirre will not be joining us this evening. Is there any public comments for closed session?
No, there are not.
Okay, since there's no public comment, we will go to closed session at 5:31 PM to discuss public employee disciplines, releases, negotiations, public employee employment, and conference with labor negotiators. Huh? Okay,
Yes.
okay, we're on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Regular board meeting of the Romoland School District reconvenes at 6:36. Is there anything to report out of closed session?
There's nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. This time we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll go over our governance norms. We agreed to act with dignity, respect differences, build trust, work as a team, engage the public, focus on the success of every student, work together for the common good. We have communications from our governing board. Mr. Reller.
Yes, I'd like to highlight just a few things. One, thank you for posting the promotions, streaming those. Thank you. They were really nice. Thank you for the message for the board. In one of the Friday communications, Mr. Payton highlighted that we're going to be giving out free physicals for athletic clearances. So that's just another thing that we're doing here in Romoland Elementary School District to eliminate barriers for kids to participate in activities and be engaged at school. Want to highlight the teacher who promoted this RCOE Fine Art exhibit and our winners, because in the virtual environment, it is not easy to engage kids to get them to participate in these types of events. So shout out to whoever that teacher was that promoted that. And then lastly, if you could remind me to ask about direct certification during the budget discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reller. Ms. Moon.
Just congratulate everybody for getting through a very challenging year, something we've all didn't ever think we would experience, and doing such a tremendous job. I often look at our comments from our parents in the community, and it has been just really inspirational, and really a shout out to all the teachers doing an amazing job, including the cabinet. I mean, all our classified staff, everybody. It's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moon. Ms. Kleitz?
Yes, Mrs. Moon, I'd like to piggytail back on what you said. Exactly, that was my comments as well. And a big congratulations to our 8th graders that will be promoting to Heritage High School, and also to the principal and staff at Chase for pulling off the promotion ceremony. So congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Kleitz. And myself, yeah, I'd like to congratulate our promotions for our 8th graders going into high school. Congratulations on that. Good luck, and hope high school does well for you all. And I'm sure you guys are well prepared for that. We have a wonderful teaching staff here in the Romoland School District. I know they prepared you well. Mr. Butler, again, thank you for streaming the promotion ceremony. Things are just very hectic and not quite what we expected this year with attendance and everything. And anyways, looking forward to getting back to next year, actually, and get moving forward again. Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo the comments, I just want to once again thank staff. Every position in the district really pulled together this year to make the best of a challenging situation. And also, by the way, I want to thank our parents and guardians out there that also did the same thing. You know, it was a stressful time for everybody, but despite of all of that, you know, it is my feeling that we provided quality learning experiences for students this year. And that couldn't be done unless we all worked together. If we were working against one another, the kids suffer. And, you know, throughout every level, every job classification in the district, I felt like people were always asking what was needed to be done. And parents and guardians were doing the same thing. And that was the reason for our success this year. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Payton. This time, we're going to move on to recognitions and announcement. Dr. Weiss, is that yours? Is that your presentation? Oh, it's yours? Okay, I'm sorry.
Good timing. Welcome, everybody. We have enough chairs for everybody? We can get another chair down for you.
Yeah, we got. Okay.
You guys had perfect timing for the agenda item, so thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mary Wigman, our Romoland Teachers Association President, and she will be presenting the RTA Scholarship Award this evening.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Payton and cabinet members. And it is a great honor for the Teachers Association to present this every year. And I'll tell you just briefly what the process is. It is for students that are have gone through our district, and then they do have a choice of what high school to go to. So we designate a person to handle the scholarship within our ranks. And then they take the information and deliver it to all the high schools that our kids may choose to go to. And then she follows up with the counselors at the high school if there's any questions or things like that. And then there's qualifications. They need to be having a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0. And the applicant must apply to a college. And the use of this scholarship is to, of course, offset the funds of their future career and education. And then they submit it, and then we have a panel of people that read the essays, and then we choose which one or multiple ones. And this year it was a little bit on the slighter side because of course the COVID, but nonetheless, they had two choices of a topic. The first topic was, it says, often many people help us shape our lives and formulate or reach our goals. You are preparing a speech to be given to a group of educated adults. Select a person who has had a major influence in shaping your life and formulating or reaching your goals. Give specific details or examples in your speech. The other choice that they get to choose is, our lives have high points and low points. Choose one particular high point or low point in your life and describe why it has such an impact on you. Explain what you gained from this situation. And Dylan chose to do topic 2, and I thought topic 2 was so relevant right now because we do have a lot of highs and lows for the last year. So I'm going to let him, when I get done presenting the check for the scholarship, let him read the essay because I thought it was so powerful. I read it to my 5th graders because they were leaving. And after I got done reading, the class was silent and they were just like, wow. So I was very excited to do that. And then we had a really rich instruction about that. So on behalf of the Romoland Teachers Association, I would like to present this check to Dylan Dickey for $1,500 to offset his college. And now we'll get to hear his wonderful essay.
Before I start, I'd just like to thank the board for allowing me to be here. I'd also like to thank the Romoland Teachers Association for awarding this to me. It's very helpful for me, obviously. I'd also like to thank Mrs. Wigman for presenting this to me. So thank you. At this time 2 years ago, I woke up in a hospital bed without a clue of the pain and stress my body had just endured. For years, I had gone through countless episodes where I would collapse and lose consciousness while playing sports. I pushed through this obstacle because of my love for the game of football. My goal was to play football at the college level, and most people would put that aside after suffering a sudden cardiac arrest like I have, but not me. When you grow up being a talented athlete, you can feel indestructible. And until you reach a point where you've been knocked off your pedestal, your ego will continue to grow. As a freshman at my high school, I was recognized as one of the best athletes in my class by my peers who voted me as the freshman MVP for 2017. I was then brought onto the varsity squad going into the CIF playoffs, where my skills were tested against senior players. Throughout this process and going into my sophomore year, I grew a big head and became selfish. I am now thankful that I was humbled during my sophomore season, but the challenges that I faced were difficult to overcome. The summer before my sophomore year, I suffered a fracture in my knee and rolled around the school in a wheelchair for almost 5 weeks. After watching my team from the sideline for 5 games, I was finally able to get on the field. The glee of playing my sport only lasted a short while, as I then suffered a dislocation and fracture in my right ring finger. But after a few days, I wasn't content with sitting out another game. So I went to the trainer, taped up my hand, and played those next 5 games. I should have understood that those injuries were a sign of something far worse to come, but as I became more comfortable with playing on Friday nights, my ego grew again. And as soon as I thought I was reaching the top of my game and ran onto the field for the first round of playoffs, I collapsed to the ground and my heart stopped. Thankfully, CPR was performed immediately, and I was rushed to the hospital, where I woke up 2 days later without any recollection of the last week. After having a pacemaker implanted in my chest, being diagnosed with a rare heart condition, and regaining enough strength to think and walk after a week, I was released from the hospital. When I returned home, I was met with an immense amount of love and appreciation, not just from my friends and family, but from groups of people I had never known. I quickly realized that all of these obstacles could be used as a lesson. In the following months, while I was ordered to rest and had to do all my schooling from home, I came to the conclusion that life can be taken from you at any point, that I needed to appreciate the people around me more. And if I did that, I would get more out of my life. When I finally trusted myself to be on the right path, I fought to get back to playing football again. Of course, this was difficult, but through support from my family, friends, and team, I was able to continue to be an athlete. At the end of my journey back to football, my mom showed me that she had filed for me to have a wish granted by the Make-A-Wish Foundation before having surgery weeks earlier. At first, I was against the decision she had made because I didn't think I was deserving of something so gracious. But then I realized I could use this wish to give back to my school and my teammates and coaches that supported me. I used my wish to pay for the weight room at my high school to be redone with new paint and equipment. Through all of these experiences, I have gained a better perspective on life. I now understand that helping others is what gives my life purpose. My next goal is to earn my degree in kinesiology in order to help other athletes like me stay healthy and on the right path. Thank you.
Just want to take a moment and congratulate you, but also say that I am a member of this community and read your story and have followed you. And I can't tell you how heart-wrenching and how God has blessed you and your family. But I think your essay said it all, because you truly now know the meaning of living, and you will have a beautiful, beautiful life. And always giving back is where you get the reward. So congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing.
I just want to add to what Ms. Moon said. You know, at the end, you said you found what your calling is helping others and caring for others. I think in the world that we live in today and the things that we see on TV and hear on the radio and listen to and watch on the news, I think one thing that can help us is to have young people like you devoting themselves to helping others and caring for others. That's what I think is gonna save our country and our world. So thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. It was a wonderful story, and sometimes we need to get hit over the head a few times, don't we? To realize what's and you're not alone there. That's many people. So the important thing is you saw the opportunity to be selfless and giving, and through selflessness and being gracious. That's what makes good people. And those are the people that help this world. Thank you.
And I just say, I wish you luck in your future endeavors. I reached out to your mom right after that initial incident, but I hadn't really gotten an update lately. And so I'm glad to hear that you're back on track. What's that? Right. Well, yeah, when I saw him walk in, I'm like, holy smokes. But I'm glad to see that you're on the right track and that you have some goals for your future, and we wish you the best of luck.
Keep that drive, Dylan. Kinesiology is that's a big jump there. So keep that drive going. Good for you. Okay. All right, at this point, we're going to move on with our meeting. You're welcome to leave at this time. Or you can stay. It's up to you. Uh, All right, moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. All right, the association reports. Do we have association reports?
No, we do not.
Okay, both associations are no. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Make sure where I'm at here. Sorry. No association, okay. All right, notice of public hearing. Going to our notice of public hearing, 2021-2022 Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP. The Romoland School District Board of Trustees is required to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding the 2021-2022 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP. I would like to welcome everyone and declare this public hearing open. At this time, the Board of Trustees will receive comments on the 2021-2022 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, for the Romoland School District. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in this manner? If so, please come forward to the podium and state your name and present your comments. And the comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there any comments?
No public comment.
Okay, since there's no further speakers, I hereby declare this public hearing closed. 21-22 budget for Romoland School District. Prior to the adoption of the Romoland School District, the Board of Trustees is required to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding the 21-22 budget. I would like to welcome everyone to, I would like to welcome everyone and declare this hearing open. At this time, the Board of Trustees will receive comments on the 21-22 proposed budget. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter? If so, please come forward to the podium, state your name and present your comments. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
No comments.
Seeing that there's no further speakers, I hereby declare this public hearing closed. Information items, Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, the budget information. Dr. Weiss and Mr. Bacon.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and members of Cabinet. Tonight, Mr. Bacon and I are presenting together to provide you information about the proposed Local Control and Accountability Plan for 2021-22, known as the LCAP, and the projected budget for the 2021-2022 school year. During the May board meeting, I shared with you some information about key strategic actions in the 2021-2022 proposed LCAP. Tonight, I am sharing an overview of the plan. It is made up of 3 sections. The first is the budget overview for parents, known as the BOP. The annual update is the second section, and it is an update of the previous LCAP from 2019-20, as well as an annual update of the learning continuity plan, which was unique to this school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on schools. The third section of the LCAP are the goals and actions proposed for next school year. So the BOP, the budget overview for parents, it is actually the cover, the first 3 pages of the LCAP document. And it shows with graphic representations the totality of the proposed district budget for the coming school year, which Mr. Bacon will explain later. The budget for the school year at $55,417,990. However, that full amount of the budget is not represented in the LCAP. Rather, the LCAP budgeted expenditures total $11,691,367. So a portion of the total district budget. And the intent of the LCAP is to support high need students and have a plan for our district and to increase or improve services for high need students. So we receive state funds called LCFF funds and supplemental and concentration funds to support high need students, which are low income students, English learners, and foster youth. And for the coming year, we will receive $7,998,398. So in the LCAP, we have to show expenditures that are increasing and improving services for those high needs students. And we have done that with the combination of LCFF funds as well as other state and federal funds. We have $8,848,111 in support of our high needs students. So the annual update section of the LCAP is an analysis of our district implementation of previous strategic actions from this year, the things we did new in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and then the previous LCAP, which was the last of a 3-year LCAP plan. And so we analyzed the effectiveness and the impact in supporting our students, and we determined which strategic actions should continue to be included in the next year's LCAP. And there were themes that emerged, particularly from all our stakeholders in academics, to continue to grow our focus on personalized learning, small group instructional support of our students, reading supports, math supports, and inclusive practices. Engagement and climate. The key areas are social emotional connections and opportunities. We've definitely been growing this area with an investment in school counselors and school-based mental health therapists. People want to continue to grow these opportunities for students to support their social emotional needs, especially coming out of this COVID-19 year. Growing extracurricular opportunities for students, increasing mental health support and services, and continuing with robust parent-guardian communication and outreach. And then in facilities, health and safety, focus on the fact that we are still a growing district with new homes being built and more families moving in, and that there are facility space issues we must reckon with, and focus on continued COVID safety and general safety for our students and staff. And that takes us to the proposed goals for the upcoming LCAP. Goal 1 is the academic goal to provide students with a rigorous and enriched academic foundation focused on personalized learning to meet the demands of college and career readiness. Goal 2 is our engagement and climate goal to provide safe, engaging, and enriched learning environments that support the culturally diverse, social, emotional, and physical development needs of each and every student. And goal 3 is about health and safety in our facilities. Provide physically safe and well-maintained facilities that support the health and safety of all students. I'll turn it over to Keith now for the budget conversation and then take questions about LCAP.
Thank you, Dr. Wise. Just to orient the board as to where we are now, we're at the beginning now of the 2021-2022 budget / reporting cycle. So it's at this time that we're looking to present this budget for potential adoption at the next board meeting. Sorry. I like this graphic because it really illustrates how our revenues come to us. So if we take a full dollar bill, the lion's share of the percentage that comes in the form of the local control funding formula is that's the biggest piece of the dollar bill there. At 83% of our total budget comes in terms of the LCFF. Next to that, we have our federal revenue, which accounts for about 5% at 2.495 million. Then we look at our state revenue at 3.6 million, which is 7%. And then our local revenues, 2.454 million, which breaks down to 5% of our total revenue. Similarly to revenues, we look at the expenditures in terms of portions of a dollar bill. We look at our certificated salaries. That's for our teachers and certificated administrators and counselors and that type of thing. We're looking at 43% of the total budget is for salaries for those folks. Our classified folks, which includes all of our aides and campus monitors and that type of thing, we're looking at 6.7 million, which breaks down to about 12%. And then the benefits for all those folks, that's pension benefits, and then all of the other required statutory benefits that go along with employment account for $13 million or about 24%. So all in all, our total employee costs make up almost 80% of our total budget. That's typical for school districts that we're people business. So most of our costs come in the form of people. Add on to that, books and supplies, almost $3 million, which accounts for 5% of the total budget. And then we look at services, that's 7.4 million or about 13% of the overall budget. And that little sliver at the end is our capital expenditures projects, our big projects that we do. And that is about 2% of the overall budget. So looking ahead at the multiple year projection, what we're doing at this time is we're estimating how we're going to close out the current year in the form of estimated actuals. You can see that we have an ending fund balance for the current year that we're projecting to be $17.8 million. That's a large amount of money, but if you look at the bottom of the screen in the restricted section, a good chunk of that money comes in the form of one-time money that we've received from the state and federal government this year. Included in there is about $3 million for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. So we're receiving the money this year, but we're not going to spend it until next year. So then looking at the budget as we go, we do see ending fund balances that are still positive, and we're able to meet our 3.5% reserve for economic uncertainty as set by the board. Normally at first or second interim, what we'd look for is a positive certification at this point, but with the budget, we don't certify that way. We just present the information as is. So just some final thoughts on the budget. What a difference a year makes. Going into this process for the 2021 year, there was a lot of uncertainty. We're looking at big potential cuts, 10% cuts from the governor at that point. The 21-22 budget also comes with some uncertainty, but it's mostly positive uncertainty. There's quite a bit of money that's come into the state that wasn't anticipated at the beginning of the pandemic, and throughout the process, throughout this year, the amount of money that's available has grown even more. So the legislature have come together and released their kind of ideas for what they want the budget to look like. It's different than what the governor has. They have to produce a final budget to present to the governor by June 15th. If they don't present it to the governor by June 15th, they don't get paid. Ever since they passed that law, we haven't had a late budget to the governor. And then they will work kind of behind the scenes to come to all the agreements and compromises to figure out what our final budget looks like by June 30th. It must be signed by the governor. The major sticking points that we're hearing is how to allocate all these one-time sources. The governor at the May revise came out with a lot of programs that were one-time in nature, but there'd be some struggles for districts to implement them on a 1 or 2 year basis and then pull them back. And the legislature had some concerns about that. And so they're going to keep kind of going back and forth on what they want the final budget to look like. So similar to last year, we're going to need to present a 45-day budget in August. That's going to be reflective of the final budget that the governor signs. One thing that everyone was pretty firm on was this 5.07% so-called super COLA, they're calling it. It's a compounded COLA because for the current year, we didn't receive any COLA, again, due to COVID. So they're scoring a COLA for last year, for the current year. They're giving us another COLA for the budget year. And then in recognition of the tremendous cost the districts have seen over this past year, they're giving us an additional 1% COLA to help offset some of those costs. So based on the information we have now, very excited for the budget from the state. We'll just have to see how it finally shakes out. Then Mr. Reller, I know you had a question about direct cert. Was that?
Question?
First, I have a question about Prop 98. You gave us a lot of great information in our Friday communication corner. And looking at the total statewide Prop 98 funding, it was clear between 1920 and 2021 that the total Prop 98 funding went crazy. But when you look at the amount that we received as a school district, it didn't, as a matter of fact, it looked like it went down. No, it went up between 1920 and 2021, but just by a little bit of much. Why if Prop 98 is going up so fast, but our revenue that comes from Prop 98 and through LCFF is not going up at the same rate?
When we're talking about Prop 98 funding, not all of it comes to us in terms of the LCFF. They find creative ways to score money against the Prop 98 obligation that they have to K through 14 education. Some of the things that they've done that we don't see directly in our budgets is pay down some of the ongoing pension costs, as the pension costs for STRS and PERS have gone up considerably over the past few years.
So they're taking that out of the Prop 98 before they're going to sending the money to the school districts. So that's when it's called inside Prop 98, that's what they're talking about, not outside of Prop 98.
Correct.
Okay.
They're very creative.
And that's why I don't like Prop 98, but I'm worried if there's anything else out there that's going to be worse than Prop 98. So we just deal with Prop 98 because we're starting to learn it a little bit. Also and also in our Friday communication corner, you highlighted the what was it? The certification for free and reduced lunch. Do we still have to collect free and reduced lunch applications in order to get our numbers for future years for Title I money?
Yes, so although the federal government has extended the universal feeding provisions for the next year, the supplemental concentration grant money, as well as some of the categorical funds you're referring to, are driven by school, the low income rates. And so what we will do in lieu of collecting a free and reduced meal application is doing an income verification form. So families will just have to provide similar information that they normally give to us on a application for free reduced price meals, but it'll be used just for the purposes of determining qualifications for these other things. For those students that we're able to directly certify, nothing is needed for those particular students. We're able to identify those students are eligible because of that direct certification through Riverside County. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, questions on LCAP, Mr. Reller?
Yes. Oh, man, I tell you, look at all these pink Post-it notes. No, they're not for you. So one thing I am proud of, I want to let staff know, the amount of stakeholder engagement that you went through to get input on the development of our LCAP. I am looking at student focus groups. Each school had an early childhood education program, had LCAP teams, which included parents, guardians, teachers, classified staff, union leaders, administrators. You had a district LCAP team, a district advisory committee, budget advisory committees, 28 stakeholder sessions and community input. Riverside County SELPA reviewed the plan. You presented to us last month. Just a ton of stakeholder engagement. And then we just got an additional notification of some more stakeholder engagement with our teachers union. We got that through email from Mary. So that's another amazing, that's sort of icing on the cake because it just shows that we have left no stone unturned to get stakeholder input for developing our LCAP. And that was the spirit of local control funding formula and the local control accountability plan. So good job on that. One thing I am happy about is the discussion isn't over about after-school programs. I know we're going to continue to look at that to try to figure out ways to fund that, even though it might not show up in the LCAP as you're presenting this evening, but it is something that I know we're going to continue to look at and try to figure out how to give each of our students at our schools an opportunity to have an after-school program. Some items that I noticed, just wanted to double check about the online tutoring from the original budget to the actual cost increased $50,000. Is there a particular reason why that increased that much?
Our students were using it, which is a celebration. We originally thought 1 hour per student would be a safe investment, guarantee all kids would have access with 3,900 hours. In the end, our students needed more. They were about to run out and they still needed that support of online tutoring services. We have a total this year of 5,886 hours of tutoring our students engaged in. And that is a celebration. So, and as part of, thank you for noticing the all the stakeholder engagement that went from January to April. And we heard different reviews about the virtual tutoring and people want it to continue, but we're also going to make sure, and we've had this in past LCAPs, that we still offer tutoring services on campus that are in person for kids who need that service. And we found by analyzing the virtual tutoring data that it really best suited 3rd through 8th graders. They were the students who engaged in it the most, and it makes sense because virtual, if you're a kinder, a first or a second, you would need your parent with you. So it makes sense to have some on-campus tutoring available to students, particularly the young students, going into next year.
What are those tutoring services going to look like on campus? How are they going to be different than normal tutoring we see from a teacher?
They are, we allow for site-based decision-making on that based on their data, the school site's data, the school site's needs. And in general, in the past, it has been our teachers at our school sites that will help support students on their campuses.
So we're through LCAP, we're allocating funds to each school site to utilize for tutoring services if they so desire,
That is correct.
based upon their need.
Yes.
Will we receive the end of the year 2021 school year assessment data in the future?
Yes, it will be on the finalized LCAP for adoption at the June 22nd meeting. The school year having just ended, we are disaggregating the data now and uploading it into the student information system. By the end of this month, we will communicate to parents their child's scores on the end of year iReady assessment, which we used in place of state assessment. And we will also have the data disaggregated to put it, yes, in this LCAP, but also then later to have on our school accountability report cards and for any other mandates to report to the community in lieu of the state assessment.
Where are we at in the social studies textbook adoptions mentioned in the LCAP? Where are we at on that?
Well, pending LCAP approval, we will be moving forward. A planning session has been done with the middle school history department chair or social studies department chair, as well as the principal and myself to map out a timeline for the year-long process that would be engaged next year that would include a review of the 5 middle school state-approved programs to review. Those samples will be available for all the history teachers, social science teachers at the middle school to review. And then they will come together to build like a framework for how to analyze and evaluate those materials. It will narrow down to 2 or 3 of the 5. And then they will pilot during 2nd trimester of next year and make a decision by the end of next year to come to the board after public display and comment period. So we have a year-long timeline mapped out for that process.
So that brings up my question about the social studies adoption. It seems like the board's not involved until the final adoption. So I would request that, you know, the board be given an opportunity to give input on what we're looking for in a social studies adoption. There are a lot of conversations going on nationwide that I think we need to be really pay very close attention to ensure that everybody, that everybody's voices are heard, our students, our communities, when we're picking a social studies adoption that's going to last us, what, probably 5-10 years. So I'd really like to figure out how to get, where those guidelines on us choosing of the top 5 that are the 5 that the state gives us to choose from. How are we choosing which ones to pilot? I'd love to have the board have some input on that.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. In that same umbrella, tell me a little bit about cultural responsive multi-tiered systems of support. That was mentioned in the LCAP, and I know what MTSS is, but I'm not sure how the culturally responsive MTSS.
So we have
Give me a specific example of what that would look like.
we have 3 multi-tiered systems of support that encompass the whole child. There's the academic, the attendance, and then the social, emotional, behavioral. So all 3 together have different tiers of whole, offering supports to students across the board, but then meeting their needs through small group or individualized support. But the idea of the culturally responsive, especially here in Romoland, is understanding the individual or personalized needs and stories of each and every student. That is our focus. That's where you see the word term personalized learning all over our LCAP, is because it's connected for us to that whole child focus and meeting educational equity through meeting students' needs. So that's how the term plays out with the culturally proficient MTSS. All our MTSSs are seeking to understand each child's needs and give them the supports they need.
Ms. Weiss, could I take an opportunity to add to that? It's more or less, let's say you had a student struggling academically and what we would call a tier 2 student, right? So they're struggling in the general classroom instruction, but maybe they need some small group attention, right? And that small group attention is academically focused, but you also have to take into consideration the personal needs of the student and how to address those academic needs so that it gets to the kid and the kid understands it. And so while a teacher may have a group of 5 students sitting in front of them that all have the same academic need, how they approach it with those students could be different from individual to individual so that each student understands. Does that make sense? That's the culturally responsive component, and the personalized learning component of our multi-tiered system of support is really drilling down to the student level and knowing what each student needs to be successful.
And I'm glad you bring that up. Because, we have been focused on equity at Romoland Elementary School District for some time. And in reviewing the LCAP, and a matter of fact, Mr. Payton and myself are in an equity training we've been doing it for a couple months, 3 months. And, one of the things that we're asked to do is to review our board policies on equity and look for our equity statement and things like that. And when I look at and I might not be looking correctly in Gamut, when I search the word equity, I don't know how many times it actually comes up and if there's an actual equity statement that we've adopted as a board. In our LCAP, it says, and this says this over and over, at different challenges in implementing the actions and services. We, and I'll quote this part, robustly focus on educational equity investments in the whole child. So we do that, but in this LCAP, I don't see anything that actually points out specifically what our equity statement is. We had a presentation the other month on personalized learning. It was amazing. It highlighted everything we're doing. I would like to see us take all of this that we're doing and make sure our community knows what we are doing for each and every child and what they need. That's equity. And I like how you talked a little bit about each individual student need and their stories. That is extremely important that our teachers know what our student stories are. As a matter of fact, I think a good practice would be that our administrators and our teachers tell our kids their stories. to get them to know them a little better, and then in turn, give an opportunity for our kids to tell their stories if they feel comfortable, having that conversation. And then maybe if they're not comfortable with that, as the year goes on, the teachers build that relationship with that child to get them to tell their story. Because if you know someone's story, you're going to understand their perspective and their viewpoint and be able to engage them at a higher level. So that's something I'd like us to look at, is to try to figure out how to put that all in something that we really focus on each and every meeting. Everything's dealing with equity and doing what each of our students need.
Mr. Reller?
Yes.
For clarification too, in the LCAP document, would you like additional language added on this,
Well, I think the LCAP's a living document, and I know that we're going to be looking at it again in the fall, based upon after the 45-day budget. That I think we could, the staff could get together and make some sort of concrete statement that the board approves, because it's extremely important to our community, and it's extremely important to our nation and our state, and our community needs to know where we stand with respect to equity. And so I think it's important. I think a lot of the training that Trevor and I have been going through that is, and probably some of the same that you've been through, is very important for our community.
It's really, it's good to revisit some of our statements that we have formally kind of created. I can think of like ones popping out in my head where it's kind of implied, but maybe not explicit enough, right? Like we talk about meeting the needs of all students, but what does that mean, right? And so maybe we need to revisit some of those statements and provide some of that context so that when people read it, it's clear what it means, right?
Exactly. And I think that's what people are looking for, is they're going to come to us and going to say, okay, if you believe in equity, what's your equity statement? It doesn't have to be a page long. It could be a couple sentences, but it tells our community what we believe in and how we're going to support each and every one of our kids. Last thing, and I'll end with this. On page 10 of the LCAP, it provides money for restoring field trips. I didn't know that we got rid of field trips, or is that just because of COVID?
It was just because of COVID.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are approved in one motion. Do I have any comments or questions from the board on the consent agenda? Okay, if no comments, can I have a motion?
Mr. Sperry?
Yes.
I have a question for the staff, I guess. When are we going to acknowledge our retirees? And that has something to do with, our personnel order. So could I hear from Mr. Murray, please?
We can recognize our retirees at the next board meeting. And hopefully we'll have all the retirees that have finished up for the school year and have made plans for their future. And we'll kind of do that at the June 22nd meeting.
Okay, thank
I
you.
will say we've gotten, I guess we've still recently received some notifications of retirement. And so we want to make sure we don't miss anybody. And so that last board meeting in June would be the most appropriate to make sure we don't leave somebody out if they haven't submitted a retirement or resignation letter to retire at this point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on the consent agenda, do I have a motion?
A motion.
Ms. Moon motions. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Reller seconds. We'll go for a vote. Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz. Ms. Kleitz. Thank you. And myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Okay, moving on to our, let's see where we're at here. Action items. Why am I a little mixed up here? Right there, okay. That's a chance. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, award, okay, action item 1. Award informal bid for energy management system at Boulder Ridge Elementary School. Mr. Bacon? And you might as well stand up there. We got a few things for you.
I apologize.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. We're asking the board to approve this informal bid for an energy management system at Boulder Ridge Elementary. Boulder Ridge is the last of our school sites that doesn't have an energy management system. And the benefit of this, especially in these times, is it allows for us to remotely monitor air quality and ensure that we're doing filter changes as soon as they're needed to be done. It also helps us to save potential man hours if we do have any issues with the system. It's able to be monitored remotely.
thank you. Have any questions? Okay, if no questions, have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Mr. Reller, a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Moon, seconds. Mr. Reller?
Aye.
Ms. Moon?
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz?
Aye.
And myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Award the bid of 2021-05 Harvest Valley Elementary restroom preschool classroom site work. Mr. Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. We're asking for the board's approval to begin the site work at Harvest Valley Elementary School. We're going to be adding preschool classes there, and this was initially presented as part of the EAP grant to enable us to add additional preschool slots at Harvest Valley, and then at the same time to add an additional restroom building at Harvest Valley because it doesn't have a sufficient amount of restrooms. So this bid will enable us to begin with the site work, and then once that's done, we'll be able to work on bringing the portable buildings in for those specific items.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? Okay, if no comments, can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Reller, all in favor, Mr. Reller?
Aye.
Ms. Moon?
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz?
Aye.
And myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Okay. Number 3, award the bid 2021-06 Boulder Ridge Elementary School painting project. Mr. Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. Last month at the board meeting, we gave a facilities update, and we looked at some spots throughout the school site at Boulder Ridge Elementary School where the paint has begun to fade, and there's been some chipping of the stucco and that type of thing. We're asking the board to approve this bid to repair and paint the Boulder Ridge Elementary School over the summer.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? No comments. Have a motion to approve? Ms. Kleitz? May I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Moon, second. All in favor, Mr. Reller?
Aye.
Ms. Moon?
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz?
Aye.
And myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Award bid number 2021-07 Ethan A. Chase Middle School Painting Project. Mr. Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. Again, similar to the Boulder Ridge Elementary School painting project, we presented this as a project at the May board meeting where the paint at Ethan A. Chase Middle School has some issues throughout the school site. And so we're asking the board to approve this bid to repair and repaint that school site over the summer.
Do we have any comments?
I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Kleitz?
Okay, my question is, we know what happened when Chase got painted for the first time. And I'm not sure who to direct this question to, maybe John, I'm not sure. So are we for sure that this paint will last a little bit longer than what it did at Chase originally?
Yes, Ms. Kleitz, the issue that we've identified seems to be with the preparation work that was done for the painting there. And so in walking the job site with the various vendors, we showed them the issues that we were having with the paint there to make sure that the prep work would be done properly this time so the job would last longer.
And who is going to have oversight over that from our district?
Mr. Parham will be overseeing all of the projects this summer.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I would also add for the board that both of the painting projects the bid came in pretty significantly less than what was presented in May.
Wow.
So that was good. We might have
That
to pay
almost
that-
never
we
happens.
may have to talk, may have to pay a little bit of that back when we talk about carpet in a few weeks for Mesa. Overall, it will be a savings for the district though than what we had
Good.
anticipated.
Thank you. Great.
Good to
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
A motion?
Mr. Reller, can I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Ms. Kleitz will second. All in favor, Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Okay, resolution 2021, year-end budget adjustment, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. Currently, our authorization to move budgets around for the current fiscal year ends June 30th. But past that point, we'll still be closing out the books and we'll need to bring budgets in line with actual expenditures and revenues. So this resolution will allow us to do that up until the time that we close the books.
Any discussion? If no discussion, may I have a motion to approve?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Reller motions, Ms. Moon seconds. All in favor, Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Approve 2021 resolution number 2130, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Romoland School District, acting as a legislative body for the Community Facilities District, numbers 991-1, 2001-1, 2002-1, 2002-2, 2004-1, 2006-1, 2006-3, 2016-2, 2017-1, and 2017-2. Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. We're seeking the board's approval to add the annual levy to the tax rolls for the properties in these various community facilities districts throughout the district.
Okay, any board members have any comments or questions? If no comments or questions, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Reller makes a motion. A second.
I'll second.
Ms. Moon seconds. All in favor, Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Romoland Unified School District certification for CalFresh, CalWorks, and foster child students. Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. So we're seeking board approval of this agreement with the Riverside County Department of Social Services to allow us to access data from their roles to be able to directly certify eligible students for free reduced price meals. We typically haven't had to bring this to the board, but a change in staffing at DPSS has necessitated this to come forward this year.
Have any questions or comments? No question or comments. May I have a motion? Ms. Kleitz motions.
I'll second.
Ms. Moon seconds. All in favor, Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Early childhood education compensation, Mr. Murray.
I think the only item we have tonight that's not Mr. Bacon's. So, yeah, this item is a one-time payment of up to $1,000 or up to $2,000 per employee in our early childhood education program. It's a compensation and it's based upon the concept of $2,000. However, part-time employees will be having prorated based upon the percentage of an 8-hour workday that they work. So those who are getting paid less than $2,000 are part-time employees.
Thank you. Do you have any comments or questions? Okay, if no comments or questions, I have a motion to approve.
I'll motion.
Mr. Reller, a second. Ms. Kleitz, seconds. And
Yes.
all in favor, Mr. Reller,
Aye.
Ms. Moon,
Aye.
Ms. Kleitz,
Aye.
and myself, Mr. Sperry, aye. Going on to our information items, number 2, first reading of board policy and updates, March 2021. Mr. Payton.
Thank you, Mr. Sperry. These are presented tonight as a first reading of board policy updates as recommended by district personnel. and the California School Boards Association. And so this will be a first reading, and we'll be asking the board to approve them in a few weeks when we meet again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Payton. There's no need to go back into closed session. We'll end with our board comments. Mr. Reller,
None. Thank you.
no comments. Thank you, Ms. Moon.
No comments.
Thank you, Ms. Moon. And Mrs. Kleitz?
No comment.
Okay, no comment. I myself have no comment.